school boards not to adopt rules setting aside time for prayer and Bible readings. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. We'll also discuss the 2026 jobs outlook with John Diamond, a senior director of the Center for Tax and Budget Policy at Rice University's Baker Institute.
Plus, we'll talk with one of the Grand Marshals of the city's upcoming MLK Day Unity Parade, radio personality Madd Hatta.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The Supreme Court is diving back into the culture wars today, hearing arguments that test laws which ban transgender girls and women from participating in publicly funded school sports. NPR's Nina Totenberg explains why trans participation in sports has become the newest flashpoint in both politics and law.
Transgender participation in sports is extremely rare, but the rhetoric around the issue has proved very helpful for President Trump in his most recent presidential campaign, which aired an anti-trans ad 15,000 times, putting many Democrats on the defensive. Indeed, more than half the states have enacted laws banning transgender participation in sports.
NPR's Nina Totenberg reporting. Inflation held steady last month. Rising rents and grocery prices more than offset a drop in the price of gasoline. NPR's Scott Horsley reports on the latest cost of living figures from the Labor Department.
Consumer prices in December were up 2.7% from a year ago, matching the annual increase of the previous month. Prices rose 0.3% between November and December, led by rising costs for housing, food, and energy. Gasoline prices have fallen over the last year, but the cost of electricity and natural gas is way up. Stubborn inflation is likely to make the Federal Reserve cautious about additional cuts to interest rates, despite pressure from President Trump. On Sunday, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said the Justice Department had launched an investigation of the central bank and suggested that's part of the administration's long-running pressure campaign to exert more control over interest rates. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The death toll from protests across Iran surpasses 2,000, according to the U.S.-based human rights activist news agency. The non-government group relies on supporters in Iran cross-checking information. The latest mass protests against the government began more than 2 weeks ago. As yet, no military movement from President Trump, who has repeatedly threatened action against Iran if the Islamic Republic security forces use deadly force on protesters. Russia's unleashed another round of attacks on Ukraine, costing more lives and taking out power and heat. NPR's Joanna Kisses has more.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia had launched 300 strike drones and more than 24 missiles overnight. In the northeastern city of Kharkiv, Russian forces hit a postal terminal, killing 4 employees, and also struck a children's medical center. Much of the capital, Kyiv, as well as the southern city of Odessa, do not have electricity. Ukrainian energy supplier DTEK said one of its thermal power plants has been attacked 8 times since October. Writing on social media, Zelensky said he hopes Ukraine's allies will speed up aid already promised to the country. Joanna Kakissis, NPR News, Kyiv.
You're listening to NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. The driver of a stalled car on the Katy Freeway died overnight after a tow truck slammed into them from behind. Houston police say this happened just before midnight yesterday. The broken-down vehicle did have its hazard lights on. The westbound lanes of the Katy Freeway were closed overnight as crews cleared the scene before the sun came up this morning. The tow truck driver and a passenger in the car were not hurt. Investigators say the tow truck driver was out on a service call when the crash occurred. A construction company mired in a bribery scandal could soon receive a payment from the city of Houston. News 88.7's Dominic Anthony Walsh explains.
Joseph Neary, the owner of Neary Construction, was one of 7 people charged in bribery cases 2 years ago over an alleged kickback scheme to obtain city water line work. He pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor offense of giving a gift to a public official. The payment in question is for separate work on an $8.3 million waterline project completed before the bribery allegations. In August, Whitmire said the company was barred from future work with the city, and he temporarily blocked the final payment.
As far as I'm concerned, this individual and his company should not get any city payments.
A spokesperson for the mayor now says the payment is contractually required. The city council will consider the matter on Wednesday. I'm Dominic Anthony Walsh, News 88.7.
The Texans advanced to the next round in the playoffs on the weight of a dominant 30-6 win over the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football. They play the New England Patriots Sunday at 2 p.m. Checking your weather, slight chance of showers between noon and 3 p.m. Otherwise, mostly cloudy today with a high near 58. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 49. Right now, overcast, 55 degrees on the UH campus. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Insurance protects small businesses from retailers to tradespeople. Progressive covers a variety of business needs with a range of coverages. More at progressivecommercial.com.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello there,
Hello.
Houston. And hello there, Celeste.
Hello, Ernie.
Frank is still off. He will be joining us back soon. But just wanted to let you know, when you hear they say, and Frank Billingsley, and you're like, well, where's Frank Billingsley? Well, you got us.
Yeah.
What more could you want? It's a day we've been talking about. We're a little tired today. I think it's that January doldrums, even though we both got good night's sleep, I understand.
Yes, I went to bed early last night. We've been...
Me too.
Got to get those kids to sleep and ready for the morning.
What's helping me out is that I don't have a show to watch right now. I finished Heated Rivalry, which everyone's talking about, so I had to watch it. But I don't have anything to watch, so I can go to bed at a reasonable time. When I'm hooked into a show, I have to get through it. But
yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm at today. We've got a very full show today. We got a lot coming up on the show, but you know what? Usually Frank tells us about the weather. What can you tell me about the weather?
Yeah, well, today we can expect partly cloudy skies with a high of 59. And tonight it's going to continue to be overcast with lows of 48. So it's a kind of a doomy day for today.
Middle of the night last night, I had to get up, and there's a trunk at the bottom of my bed, and I've got my comforters in there. And I had to pull a comforter out, and it really bugged my cats. They're like, it's 3 a.m. What are you doing? I was like, I'm chilly.
Yeah, it was chilly last night. I felt like today, actually, even though we are a little bit warmer today, it feels chillier because the sun's not out.
Yeah. We were talking yesterday sports on the show, and we were talking about when you talk about weather, and it's about how teams aren't always used to playing. And if you go up north and you're a southern team and it's really cold up there and all of that kind of stuff.
That's right. And we know a lot of people stayed up to watch the Houston Texans. The Texans rolled past the Pittsburgh Steelers last night, 30-6 in the AFC wild card. Houston's defense stole the show with 2 touchdowns, while the Steelers were held without an offensive score. The Texans quarterback, C.J. Stroud, added a touchdown pass as the Texans now advance to the divisional round. The Texans will face the New England Patriots this Sunday, January 18th. So that's going to be a game that we will all be staying up to watch.
Could Jim's wild card prediction be headed toward true?
Dun.
And absolutely true.
Absolutely true, says Jim.
I'm
Jim
sticking with it. Yeah.
That's right.
And to remind folks, what did you predict, Jim?
The Texans will win the Super Bowl this year.
You're one step closer to your prediction coming
That's right.
true.
Go Texans.
Yes, and as I mentioned, I had nothing to watch last night, but many people were watching the game. I should have
Yes,
mentioned.
and by the way, the game will be there is a 2 p.m. kickoff, so we will be able to go to bed
on the 18th.
On the 18th.
So they don't have to stay up
Stay
late.
up,
Unless
so
the
we won't
game
have to
goes
stay
really long, which I would doubt it would go that
Probably
long.
won't happen, Ernie.
Probably won't. And you don't have to stay up long to listen to our show today because no matter what happens, we'll be done by 1.
Yes.
So we've got it set. We're going to be talking with John Diamond. He's going to talk to us about job reports, and outlook for 2026. You laughing at me?
I am.
You are. Well, you know what? Here's my time to laugh at you. So here, take it away with the headlines. I don't know what that means, but enjoy.
More than 160 Texas faith leaders have sent an open letter to public school boards and charter school governing bodies, urging them to not adopt rules setting aside school time for prayer and Bible readings. The letter comes with less than 2 months left before a state deadline that requires school boards to vote on the issue under a law passed last year, and that was Senate Bill 11, which lets districts set aside time for voluntary prayer or religious text readings. Organized by a coalition of faith-based religious freedom groups, including the Baptist Joint Committee for Religious Liberty, Christians Against Christian Nationalism, and Texas Impact. The letter asks boards to vote against adopting a state-organized prayer policy. Faith leaders warn that approving the SB 11 prayer policy could create administrative burdens, pressure students to participate, and risk dividing school communities along religious lines. What do you think? Will the letter make a difference? Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston, 713-440-8870. You can call or text. You can also email us, talk@hellohouston.org.
We talked about this. We have been talking about this a bit, the Senate Bill 11. And I'm just curious what you think. Does it change the way you react to it when you hear that 160 Texas faith leaders have sent a letter? Does it take it out of the realm of us just conversing and our thoughts on it to hear that established religious organizations have a position on this?
Yes, and I think more established religious organizations need to step up. You know, when we look at policy and regulation, for example, if we're looking at health policy that legislators are drafting up, we talk to doctors, we talk to experts about, is this good or bad policy, as somebody who understands that space or that, I don't want to say industry, but that area, and here we're having religion and education intersecting. So yes, hearing from faith leaders come out against such policy is important. I think there has to be separation of church and state, and faith leaders need to vocalize that there needs to be separation of church and state.
I think that's what gives me hope in moments like this, is that organizations that you would think, well, of course they want more prayer because that's their business. But actually they're saying that's not the place for it. There are places for these things, and we will take care of that part of your world. You take care of educating the students. You take care of that. And I think that's a nice thing to see in today's day and age, that we still understand just because you're saying there shouldn't be this time set aside for prayer in school, it doesn't mean you're against prayer.
Right. And I think a lot of people would also say you have to be careful saying faith-based religious leaders, that's their business, right? Because they don't necessarily see it as a business.
I mean, businesses, that's their trade. That's what they work in. That's their
industry.
Industry.
Yeah.
You know what we're saying.
But yeah, I think that as parents, it's our responsibility to instill the spiritual, religious, ethical, and moral values within our kids and our students. And it's not the school's responsibility to be doing that. It is our teachers and our administrators within the education space teach students values every single day. You don't take things, you don't cheat, you don't, you respect property. So they implement these type of ideals every single day. The religious aspect, I don't think needs to be there.
And also, we have carved out a space in our society for religious schools. So if you care, if that's important to you, that religion is worked into your child's daily education, there are schools that do that, and you can go there.
And you
so
now can get $10,000.
You can also have it help be paid for. We had a YouTube comment. Do you want to read that?
Earl Grey T-Cat says it's an awful policy because there's more than just one religion. It's not right or fair to the other religions, students of other faiths.
Yes, thank you for that. And Alex Garza says vocation is the word you're looking for. Yes, not their vocation. Thank you for that.
Again,
sometimes we're just going off the top of our head with words, and sometimes those words just aren't where we want them. And so I appreciate that, Alex, for helping us out.
713-440-8870. You're listening to Hello Houston.
Come on, go on to our next story. We'll come back to this as you folks chime in on that topic. But I know this is one that Celeste has a lot of feelings about. So here we go. A Florida congressman has introduced a bill aimed at making Greenland, you have heard of this, the 51st state in the United States. On Monday, Representative Randy Fine, Republican, Florida, unveiled the Greenland Annexation and Statehood Act, which would authorize President Trump to take steps to acquire Greenland and put it on a path toward U.S. statehood. Fine said Greenland is a vital national security asset because of its location in the Arctic and its strategic shipping lanes, and argues the U.S. should not leave its future in the hands of rivals like China or Russia. Under the bill, the president would be empowered to seek negotiations with the Kingdom of Denmark, which currently has sovereignty over the semi-autonomous territory, with the goal of annexation and eventual admission as a state. Critics note, though, that this legislation does not immediately make Greenland a state. Congress would still have to approve statehood, and Greenland's government has repeatedly said its future should be decided by its people, not just handed over to the United States. So what do you think? Should we take Greenland or leave it alone? 713-440-8870. Celeste, take it away.
Well, are we really having this conversation?
Yeah, we really are.
I know that for a while the president had floated this kind of as this outlandish kind of idea, throwing it out there. Here we are now actually talking about it and trying to actually understand the logistics of it. Listen, first of all, Denmark owns Greenland. Is that accurate?
Yes, they have a controlling interest in it. Greenland is a self-governing autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark, meaning it manages most domestic affairs while Denmark retains responsibility for foreign policy, defense, and monetary policy.
Okay. So second, let's look at why would our president be interested in Greenland? So from what we understand, he said it, I believe, on board Air Force One to a reporter, that this is strategic, that there are minerals and natural resources in Greenland that we would be very interested. It's not just about that, but that is a big part of the interest. And you go back to, okay, let's look what research says. And research says that it would be extremely difficult and expensive to extract Greenland's minerals and resources. It would be extremely take a lot of time. And it would take almost a year to get to the actual mineral because it's on ice. It's within the Arctic Circle. Mm-hmm. So, I'm not sure. The advisor that has to go talk to the president and say, Mr. President, although this is such a grand idea, there are some small tactical issues. Concerns that we might have to get around.
Yeah. My favorite part in this whole story is that the president said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm getting it pretty close to it, that what gives Denmark the right to take Greenland just because they landed there in a boat 500 years ago and claimed it as their own? And I want to say, President Trump, maybe you should look back at history of the United States, because I do believe that's how we got here too.
Yeah. Love your tie, President Trump.
Love your tie, but maybe this isn't. This talk of if the U.S. doesn't doesn't seize control of Greenland, well, then Russia or China will take it. I don't ever know that that was in the zeitgeist or being discussed before we started talking about taking Greenland. And I do believe that NATO was put in place so things like that wouldn't happen. And it's all us and those countries in that area that preserve territory so Russia or China wouldn't take it. So we already are protecting Greenland and not letting anyone else take it. So, yeah, I'm just kind of...
baffled.
Yeah.
713-440-8870. You're listening to News 88.7 and you're listening to Hello Houston.
You are. Let us know what you think, and we welcome you. But anyway, on to our next story on the topic. It's you again, Celeste.
It is. It is me. And I'm going to tell you the story. Tommy Tune, an award-winning Broadway performer whose career began 6 decades ago, is donating much of his archives to the University of Houston, where he studied in the 1960s. The university announced Thursday. Tune's collection of costumes, scripts, design sketches, choreography notes, photos, and personal letters, totaling more than 50,000 items in all, will be kept in the University of Houston archives at the M.D. Anderson Library. The University of Houston felt like the natural home for it because it's where my story truly began. That's what Tune said in a news release from the university. This collection represents my life in musical theater, and I want it to inspire the next generation of artists in the city that first inspired me. Tune received the National Medal of Arts in 2003 from then-President George W. Bush, a fellow Texan, and a Lifetime Achievement Tony Award in 2015. What do you think of Tommy Tune's donation? What other U of H alumni would you like to see give back to the school? Now is the time to join us, 713-440-8870.
I also want to point out that Tommy Tune hasn't just gotten a Lifetime Tony. He has 10 Tony Awards. One of the top Tony Award getters in the history of the American theater. So congratulations to Tommy Tune for that. I will say I'm pretty surprised that... surprise is probably a strong word for it, that he chose to give it to the University of Houston when there are schools that have a much more visible connection with the performing arts. And so I think it's great that he picked his hometown university that does have a wonderful theater and arts program. I think it helps lift the university by having this collection. And these libraries of people's papers are very important, and they also help you as an academic center to have access to Tommy Tune's collection of costumes, scripts, design sketches, notes, photos, personal letters. It really is the history of American musical theater from like basically the 80s to today, when those were really his strongest producing periods. So it's really wonderful.
It's interesting that you say that when we talk about UH alumni. We had Doug Miller, who filled in as a guest host last week, and he was talking about his time here at the University of Houston, and he was, I believe, in a dormitory with Jim Nance, sports commentator Jim Nance, and now famed golfer Fred Couples. Yeah. And so to hear being sitting next to Doug, who, for a very long time broadcaster here in Houston, and then to hear about Fred Couples and to hear about Jim Nance, the University of Houston truly has an incredible alumni. Very, very well-known alumni group. Yeah.
There is, I had the opportunity to talk with Tommy Tune back on the old series Interviews, and that interview is up on YouTube. So if you want to look up Interviews Tommy Tune, you can find it. He talks about, just going to Broadway as a kid. And he got to Broadway and he automatically, just almost immediately got a show.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Ernie, Tommy Tune Award, there is an award series
Theater
here.
Under the Stars
Theater Under the Stars does it. And you were part of one of the first.
I was at the first Tommy Tune Awards. I did it for, I don't know how many years, all the way up until I believe it was the pandemic. And then I was off for a little bit. And then I went back again this last go-round of it. And it's wonderful. They recognize performing arts, the accomplishments of high school performing arts students. And then the winner of our Tommy Tunes goes to New York City for the Jimmy Awards, which is the national youth award in high school musical theater.
It was phenomenal. You presented at the last year's, and I took Evelyn and we went to it, and I was blown away at the level and the quality of those students performing, but also the fact that Tommy Tune, it represents such a big name, not just in New York, but here in Houston.
Yeah, and people forget he's an actor, a dancer, choreographer, director, 10-time Tony Award winner, and he's ours.
Yes.
So anyway, we're thrilled about that. We were talking a little bit ago about Greenland, and we have a call on that topic, 713-440-8870. You can call about any of them. You know what? The call's gone now. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to wrap up this segment.
That's right. Coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with John Diamond, Senior Fellow in Public Finance and the Senior Director of the Center for Tax and Budget Policy at Rice University's Baker Institute, about the 2026 jobs outlook. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Lenny Ambrose from St. Arnold Brewing Company, proud supporters of Houston Public Media. Right now, with your $60 donation, you can choose tickets to News and Brews. This member-exclusive event takes place February 17th. Enjoy a pint, connect with fellow NPR fans, and meet the Houston Public Media Newsroom in person. Select News and Brews tickets when you donate at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Houston Matters highlights the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. And we do it live on the air weekday mornings at 9 on News 88.7. But we know you're not always available then to listen. So subscribe to our podcast wherever you get yours, or find each day's program to stream online at your leisure at houstonpublicmedia.org. And reach out with questions or comments anytime. Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe, R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul, music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
Support comes from Discovery Green Conservancy, presenting Houston's outdoor ice skating rink, offering a wintertime experience for all, surrounded by public art and downtown views. Open through February 16th. More at discoverygreen.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from the Clarion at Brazosport College, featuring the Westerly's Brass Quartet on January 16th at 7:30 p.m. Tickets and more information at brazosport.edu/Clarion.
Support comes from UT Health Houston, home to Dr. Ramesha Papana and the Fetal Center team, who pioneered a prenatal patch to help babies with spina bifida walk earlier and better. More at uth.edu/manyfaces.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous and Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
After a roller coaster year for the economy, the U.S. job market appears to be slowing, at least for now. Some forecasts suggest hiring could remain sluggish early in 2026 before improving later in the year as businesses weigh trade policy, immigration changes, and the growing role of artificial intelligence. To help us make sense of what lies ahead for workers and employers in 2026, we're joined by John Diamond, the Senior Fellow in Public Finance and the Senior Director of the Center for Tax and Budget Policy at Rice University's Baker Institute. And if you have a question for John, you can give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870.
John, let me just start with something that's very basic, but in understanding how all this works. We constantly keep getting out these job numbers, Does it move enough? Do these changes from report to report really accurately show what's happening? Or it's because it's so close together each time, we really don't get a full picture of what's going on. Do you understand where I'm going with that? It's like we're looking too closely all the time and don't get the full landscape.
First, thanks for having me. And I get where you're going. So it's a question about uncertainty. Are we getting the broader picture? Or are we kind of focusing in too narrowly?
Right, because I also wonder the amount of jobs we talk about. When you look at the nation as a whole, the number of jobs we have. So it's 5,000 more than we thought, or 50,000 more than we thought, or down more. In the grand scheme of things, are these blips worth noticing?
Actually, they are.
Okay.
So we can add all the blips up and get like the yearly numbers. So we can say, and the numbers for 2025 were that 584,000 jobs were added in 2025. And we could compare that to 2024 when roughly 2 million jobs were added. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big difference over the full year. And if you broke that down monthly, it would be, 49,000 jobs per month on average in 2025 versus, something around 150,000 jobs per month added in 2024. And so those trends are important, and I think that's why they keep track of them.
But when we see those numbers, are we taking into consideration saturation points? So when you add more jobs in a year, the next year you have less available jobs, wouldn't you? Or am I looking at this way too basically?
I don't think there's a saturation point necessarily. It depends on the population.
Okay.
So if the population continues to grow, then your jobs should continue to grow. So if the population grows faster than your job growth, then you have a real problem.
But is that what those numbers are telling us?
They don't tell us that specifically, in that they're only referencing the job side. So you have to go find the data on the population side. With these numbers, they do report numbers like the jobs to or the employment population ratio and stuff like that. So there is stuff that connects to that within the official report. It's not as widely reported as the jobs number, which gets a lot of attention. My big concern is the uncertainty in these numbers. Mm-hmm. The way the numbers are estimated is it comes out as two reports. There's a household report, which is a survey of households, and there's an employment report, which is a survey of businesses. They use the household report to kind of give flavor. They look at things like sex and race and income level and location, so they can get location-specific effects. The employment report they use to get important details like industry effects and so forth. And so through those two surveys, they try to pick up kind of everything. But those surveys miss a really important piece of the job market, and that's firms that either start or die. So firms that have closed recently or firms that have just opened. You can't survey a firm that didn't exist, and you can't survey one that just closed. Mm-hmm. And so on top of those two surveys, they layer on what's called the birth-death model, and they try to predict how many new jobs are created because new firms open, and how many old jobs did we lose because old firms closed. And that is where a lot of the uncertainty has been in the last 2 years.
So if you're breaking it down, talking about sector differences, and we're looking at the sector differences, and we're looking at firms that have closed, who would you say, when we're looking within those areas, is struggling? I mean, would it be, healthcare and social assistance? Are we looking at technical services? Who really is struggling at this moment?
So over the last couple of years, healthcare and social assistance has by far been the strongest part of the job market.
Okay.
In 2024, the government provided a lot of the job gains of those 2 million jobs. In 2025, that's been exactly the opposite. The government has lost around 300,000 jobs. Across time, retail trade, over the last 2 years, retail trade, manufacturing have taken a hit and have been probably the slowest, they've suffered the largest losses over the last couple of years.
So if we're circling in on manufacturing, then how much of that hit has been taken because of new policies such as tariffs and the president wanting to move manufacturing into the U.S.?
Well, it definitely hasn't worked. If you base it off of the jobs numbers, manufacturing has continued, but this trend was ongoing before the tariffs.
Okay.
Manufacturing has been struggling for really much of the last 15 or 20 years.
Why, John?
But that trend has just continued. It's a mix of trade effects, of other countries being able to produce goods that are equal quality to ours at lower prices. So if you look at like cars and stuff like that, and you can compare a worker in Mexico that works in a car plant earning $7 a day versus a U.S. worker earning $77 a day, and it doesn't take much to realize you're going to get a cheaper car if you produce at least part of the components in Mexico. And then, technology. We continue to see technology play a major role in manufacturing and the way we produce goods in the manufacturing sector.
Let me ask you this, though. When we look at, when you talk about manufacturing, and the first thing my head goes to is, well, technology is always changing, and how we approach the world is always changing. As we move more into technical things, as we move more into AI, it's going to shift where people work and where the job market is. Can you look back over other periods of time and see how quickly we adapted as things around us changed and built back up the job market? Or is there no parallels we can look at to see how we're doing in this moment?
No, there are a lot of parallels. We can look all the way back to, Henry Ford's production method change of the assembly line. We can look to the late 1990s and kind of the beginning of the internet and the web and computer software in terms of a computer with word processing software, which really impacted the executive assistant roles and the fear then was that, look how many people are in those roles and what are we going to do when all of those people are unemployed? Yet we actually ended up with more of those people after the word processor, not less, because it made their job more productive. We could see the same thing in AI. AI could make workers more productive and increase their productivity. I think we're actually seeing some of that now. Productivity is off the charts this last year, much higher than expected. And as workers become more productive, that means they're cheaper to hire because for each hour they work, they produce more output. So paying their wages is more affordable. So I do think there's a lot of examples in history we can look back on.
And so looking at those, and I'm guessing you kind of already answered that, how are we faring this time around? It looks like we're moving in a good direction. With these advancements, it's actually helping.
It's always a trade-off. So there's always winners and losers, and we need to be clear about that. And there's always a painful transition period where workers have to retool themselves and gain new skills to participate and benefit from the new technologies. And we are at the front end of that process. And so whereas there will be large benefits, there will be some contained costs from people having to go through that transition period.
So I guess that goes back to my very first question was, so then looking at these job numbers and these little moments as we go along may be missing the bigger picture of there has to be a transition period as we advance technologically, but that there is a payoff coming. Is there a way to reflect that when we look at numbers?
I get what you're saying there. And yes, are the job numbers all we need to look at? Absolutely not. It's a very small piece of a much larger labor market. And they're really a backward-looking measure of how are things in the past. And then, looking forward, we can't really look at these job numbers to tell us what's going to happen in the next year. But we can look at the trend over the last 6 months and say, well, increases in the number of jobs have been declining every month since April. That's a problem, and that's a trend that I expect will continue for the next several months. But it's also a trend that should turn around, hopefully sometime in 2026. And so that trend helps. Now, we need to pair that with some forward-looking analysis, but that's not in the data. That's stuff we have to go and find and use other data to figure out, okay, how's AI going to affect this labor market? How are the tariffs going to affect this labor market? How will it affect manufacturing versus how will it affect banking and other regulated industries? And so it's a very complex puzzle when you start trying to project things as opposed to looking at trends in past data.
We're speaking to John Diamond, the Senior Fellow in Public Finance and the Senior Director of the Center of Tax and Budget Policy at the Baker Institute. You're listening to Hello Houston. You can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. We did receive a YouTube comment from Nicole Joe who says there were a lot of layoffs in oil and gas in 2025. Have these people been able to find new jobs, or is the oil and gas industry not really hiring? John, what do you think about the oil and gas industry and when we look at jobs?
I think this is going to be true for all industries right now, outside of a couple. We're in they keep tagging this economy the no hire, no fire economy. In October, we did see a large number of job losses across industries, and the oil industry was obviously a large part of that. I think at this point in time, if you get laid off, it's a really bad position to be in. I think it's really hard for a middle-aged person to find a new job if they get laid off. I also think on the front end of the labor market, we're seeing it with college graduates. They're having a very hard time finding jobs, and that's just because firms aren't expanding their labor force right now. They don't want to commit to those types of decisions. And so everybody's just kind of standing firm. They really don't want to release workers, but they also don't want to add to their current stock of workers.
But it's interesting because I was graduating college around 2008. We all know what was happening around 2008 when there was, a pretty big employment crash. And so what can we learn from that moment? Are there any parallels? Is there anything that we can take away looking at kind of that no fire, no hire type situation that we're in now?
2008 was very different from today. We were on the back end of a giant financial crisis.
Yeah.
And all of the uncertainty stemmed around how were we going to kind of rebuild our financial infrastructure. And I think past financial crises has indicated kind of what we knew, which is it's a very slow path out of that because economic growth takes lending and financial expansions, and we just weren't in a place to do that. Today's very different. We don't face a financial crisis from the private sector. We do have we do face struggles in the government sector in terms of the size of their deficits and debt. But most of our problems are around policy issues, dealing with tariffs, dealing with unaffordability, very, very high regulatory pressures, and geopolitical strains. And so I think we could have a much faster recovery this year than we saw post-2008, which is the good news.
Right.
I expect that when things turn, they will turn quickly, and we will be in our next boom. I just don't know how long before we get there. And I should point out that part of the economy is currently still in the boom.
Right.
I mean, this economy is very two-faced. I mean, there's the slow part of the economy, and then there's, AI data centers, energy for those data centers, investment in AI is absolutely blowing up. I mean, that is in just a massive growth pattern.
So I guess you answered my next question, was where do you see the engines of growth in the job market in 2026 moving forward? Would you say those industries?
I think it's all of those industries.
Yeah.
That's where everything is going to be happening. In fact, just the amount of investment pouring into the AI sector is actually stealing, or slowing down growth in other sectors just because the payoffs are larger.
And I think we've talked about this, actually us on this show, that the idea of an AI bubble and that it's going to burst and that all of this is just going to collapse. Do you feel that or no?
I don't think that's possible. Is it possible that these private firms could be incapable of producing profits to pay off all of their debts and complete this $1 billion that's in a very circular method running through NVIDIA to OpenAI to Anthropic and back through the circle again. That is absolutely possible, and I think that is where people fear the bubble. But I guess when I step back and look at it, geopolitically, this is a race. This is the Cold War of the 1950s and 60s. And the U.S. is in competition with China to see who can produce AI and to get the gains from AI quickest. So I don't think the federal government can let the bubble burst. I think they're going to keep inflating or feeding this bubble, until we win this competition. And so I don't think there's could there be a private sector bubble? Yes. But I think the federal government would be forced to step in and bail that out fairly quickly if they even allowed it to ever happen at all.
Mm-hmm. John Diamond is a senior fellow in public finance and the senior director of the Center for Tax and Budget Policy at Rice University's Baker Institute. John, thanks for always coming and joining us on Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Coming up, we're going to talk to the one and only Madd Hatta. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
This is Ira Glass of This American Life. Do you know our show? Okay, well, either way, I'm going to tell you about it. We make stories, old-fashioned stories that hopefully pull you in at the beginning with funny moments and feelings and people in surprising situations, and then you just want to find out what is going to happen and cannot stop listening. That's right. I'm talking about stories that make you miss appointments and ignore your loved ones. This American Life.
You can hear it tomorrow night at 9 o'clock.
I'm Jesse Thorne. You want some real, insightful conversations about where art comes from? Well, Bullseye has you covered, as long as you don't mind a little bit of ridiculousness.
Y'all was really judging me though.
They sniffed it out. They sniffed out that I was weird.
I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna sit, just like in the movies.
Listen, learn, laugh. Bullseye from Maximum Fun and NPR.
Bullseye, Thursdays at 9 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support comes from Rothko Chapel, presenting the 31st MLK birthday observance. We Got Us, Health and Care Beyond Capitalism, on January 15th at 6:30 p.m. More information at rothkochapel.org. Support comes from Dekamera, presenting soprano Julia Bullock and pianist Connor Hannock with Olivier Messiaens, Song Cycle Harawi, Song of Love and Death, January 30th at Wortham Center. Tickets at dekamera.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous and Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
For the first time in over 30 years, two of Houston's long-standing Martin Luther King Day parades will come together as one for a single unified event. That's right, on Monday, January 19th, the city of Houston, in collaboration with the Black Heritage Society and the MLK Grand Parade, will present the city's first MLK Unity Parade to honor the life and legacy and dream of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. To tell us more about the MLK Unity Parade, we're joined by one of the parade's Grand Marshals, who many of you will recognize from his show on Magic 102.1, Madd Hatta.
Hey. How you guys
Welcome.
doing?
Welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me, first of all. Thank you very much. It had to be a small list of hosts, like, I guess we should get him in here. Why?
Yeah,
no, thank you so much.
And also, if folks want to join the conversation, they want to chat with you, then give us a call at 713-440-8870. But not to lose the lead of the story before we get into talk about you and all that you have done.
Sure.
The idea of finally getting these two parades together.
That's really the big story here. I'm really a very small note in this, just to get these two organizations, because how many, was it 31 years?
It was ridiculous.
30, yeah, over 30 years.
And now they've come together, and I don't know what conversation the mayor used to get them, or coercion, or whatever you want to call it, to get them to work together, but they are. And I think that's what makes this a big deal for this year, especially during the times that we're in, to see a little unity. And so I'm glad that they did this.
Well, and I know for many years there was a lot of tension between the two parades, and each one claiming, we're the parade, we are here, we're there. To come together to show not just the community, but the city at large.
Yes.
There is place for unity. And then last year, was it, or 2 years ago, the Pride Parade. They then had two parades. It was like, what is going on here, folks? Let's just all come together and do this.
You would like to think that everyone would come together with the ideas of what these things are supposed to be about. But sometimes other things get in the way, like probably money. But we'll just leave that there and move on.
So how does it feel to be Grand Marshal?
I don't really know why they picked me. I don't really. When they first announced this, there was a press conference and they had all these prestigious people in the room. I'm looking around the room like, of all the people to pick for this, you guys picked me. Cool.
No, but really.
I'm honored by it and confused at the same time.
But really, I was going to ask you, so what does it mean to you to be able to be a part of such an important parade for Houston and the nation?
I think what they achieved in bringing, to me, the big thing for me is, again, the unity. Mm-hmm. That really is the bottom line here. I'm excited that they've decided after all these years to come together. And I'm kind of like the debut of this coming together by being a part of the parade. So for me, the excitement is there's one big grand parade that we'll see on the 19th, and it's probably going to be probably at least a few hours long because everyone is coming together. So I'm excited about that. That's the most important thing that I'm taking away from this. The big word is unity. That's my big takeaway from this.
And even though you are hearing Madd Hatta, you are listening to Hello Houston.
Don't get confused.
You might be like, wait a minute, what's going on right now? This is News 88.7. You can join the conversation, 713-440-8870. We do have a call from Karen from Katy. Karen, welcome to Hello Houston.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I just want to say it's a pleasure and an honor to be on the program today.
Well, thank you, Karen. Do you have a question or a comment you want to share?
Well, I just want to say that it's quite a pleasure to know that Martin Luther parades have come together. Like Bob Marley said, one love, one all. Let's come together and feel all right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Karen, thank you very much for calling. It is what I love about the idea of these parades coming together is that it does speak out to the whole community. It says, let's all come together. There's just too much division out there in today's world. We are very fortunate in a city like Houston where we see a lot less of that than we have seen in uprisings that are happening all across the country.
Very true.
So this parade takes on even more significance, especially when you think about what we're honoring with the parade, Martin Luther King's legacy. And then you add to that the idea of this unity.
Yeah. Again, I think we're setting the precedence of what we should be as a country. And just seeing that, again, just seeing us come together, like the brother just said, one love. I hope people take that away from this, that there are times where we can be at odds, but can we at least come together on certain principles should always be, we should all agree on it. And again, I think that that's the big deal here. For me, really, there's nothing to add, take away from that. I'm excited that they've decided, and this has nothing to do with me. I'm just excited about the idea that these groups have come together, and I think during this time where we are, in history, we need to see people uniting as one. Because I don't see it a lot on the news at night.
Yeah, well, and I think that was, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s central message was rooted in, justice, equality, and nonviolence. And at the heart of it, coming together as a nation and finding the commonality with each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so got all that out of the way. Now I need to know this. Successful radio career. Our show coming up on a 1-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Give us tips and ideas. How do you build a successful radio legacy that people come back to over and over again? You've definitely shown that you know the magic. What is it?
I don't. It is luck. It is, favor from, up above. It's a lot of luck. It's understanding your audience. I think it's a lot of luck, though. I had a good team around me. I see part of my team is behind you guys.
Yeah, we stole part of your team, hoping we'd get some of that magic.
Y'all don't know Jimbo. Jimbo is
That's
a part
right.
of the crew in here. If y'all didn't know, y'all like, whatever happened to Jimbo? Jimbo working, baby.
Hello, Houston. That's right. I'm back.
So I think it's building a good team. And I think once you do that and the audience feels like they're a part of the team, I think that you'll last a long time. I think enjoying what you do, I'll be honest, here's the bottom line. The reason why we lasted so long is that my crew had me laughing personally every single day. I looked forward to going to work to see Jimbo and the rest of the crew every single day. Yeah. What you all just heard was our jokes inside the studio. And I don't think it's hard to put together a team of people and make it successful. And for some reason, we got blessed and all came together at the right time in history.
Yeah. Sometimes you may be listening to the show and you'll hear like this lull when Celeste and I are talking to each other. And it's only because we've just gone through some jokes about something and we're like, do we go there? We're just going back to being professional.
Yeah. No, go there. That's what the listeners are waiting for. They're waiting for you to go there. Like, you don't really feel that way, Miss Celeste. Do you? Go on and say what you really want to say.
Oh, okay. I'm going to take that.
She's like, nah.
It is 88.7 News, 88.7. Myself into
Speaking of saying things you really want to say, you also brought us a book.
I did.
Tell us about the book.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Look, you all are the first ones to receive the book. I literally wrote this book. I had a baby 3 years ago. His name is Case. And I wanted him to have a book because I knew he was going to be a reader because we're going to read to our kid. We want him to be a very smart young man. And I wanted him to literally have a book that when he picks it up, it has his face on it. Oh. So when he was still in his mother's belly, I used to be a former rapper too in some make-believe life of mine. And I was doing some weird rhyme and she was laughing and joking. I'm like, ooh, I should make that a little book for him. She said, oh, you should do it. So I was spurred on by her and wrote this little book for my son called Case's Little Adventures. And it came out looking way better than I expected. I couldn't believe it when I first touched it. And I was like, wow. And what the real exciting part is to have your kid look at something and see his face. Yeah. And he looks at the book. I say, who's this? He's like, ooh, that's me. Yeah. So that is exciting. A picture of his mother in there and a real buff-looking guy of what I think I used to look like is in there as well.
But
he sees his parents in there too.
But there are so many Houstonians that grew up with you and you were part of their life and generations. Sure. This is going to be part of a whole nother generation. Do you think you'll be known as an author to a whole young group of Houstonians growing up?
Wow, that's a good one, Miss Celeste. I don't know. Like I said, when I wrote this, it was purely because I wanted my kid to have something that he could hold on to. And then somebody told me, you should actually really do something with this book instead of just give one to your son. You got these extra copies. What are you going to do? I'm like, oh, I guess I should do something. I'll think about it.
A Madd Hatta read-along. I like that. At the Houston Public Library.
All right.
Let's do it.
Miss Celeste got it.
I got you, baby. We're going to do
Celeste takes the positive slant on this. I look at it and I say to myself, your poor son, he's going to be so disappointed when he gets in school and he's not on the cover of all the books they read.
But you know what's so funny? He had a book reading last week, Thursday. And he decided he wanted to take his book to class, and he was all the rave. He was the hottest kid in school. All the teachers and administrators were like, oh, he had a book, because they didn't know who I was or what I did. They just see some bummy-looking guy that drops him off and picks him up. But then they like read all this stuff, and they're like, oh, that's who that is. That kid is at our school. But it was very exciting for him.
Yeah.
I think he liked it. I think he likes the book a little bit. And I appreciate you guys even bringing that up. I really just I'm like, I got to go and give something.
Yes.
Just because of your time. I appreciate you guys allowing me to be
We
here
appreciate
and share
you.
about the parade on this coming Monday.
Madd Hatta, or I'm going to say it, Benjamin Thompson, author, is an afternoon radio show host and a Grand Marshal.
You got the government in there, Jimbo.
I got you.
Be proud.
And a Grand Marshal for the upcoming MLK Unity Parade. Madd Hatta, thank you for joining us today
Thank you.
on Hello Houston. The MLK Unity Parade will take place on Monday, January 19th in downtown Houston, and it will begin at 10 a.m. Coming up, we're going to continue discussing today's top headlines. Stay with us.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from arbitrator, mediator, and attorney Sylvia Mayer, providing in-person and video conference arbitration and mediation services. More information available at smayerlaw.com.
They have increased our chance of showers to about 50% today, and the high getting up to near 60. Tonight, partly cloudy, a low near 49. Looking ahead for tomorrow, another nice day with a high getting up to near 67. It's 56, and this is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, Texas Democrats are calling for an investigation into Elon Musk's AI chatbot on X for allegedly creating sexually explicit depictions of children. We'll discuss this story and more of today's top headlines. I'm Celestia Sherman.
And I'm Ernie Manous. We'll also be joined by newly elected Houston City Council member Alejandra Salinas, who will discuss the latest city council issues and take your questions.
Plus, we'll also learn about the nationally recognized contemporary dance company, ISHIDA, and their upcoming program, which is being presented by the Asia Society Texas.
Also, we want to hear from you, so give us a call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Just go to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Inflation's holding firm, according to the Labor Department's report on the Consumer Price Index. In December, consumer prices were up 2.7% from the previous year, same as November's year-over-year increase. Inflation's higher than what the Federal Reserve would like, but it remains steady, and that'll weigh on Fed policymakers when they meet later this month to decide whether to cut the key interest rate for a fourth straight time. Now, on his way to deliver an economic speech in Detroit, President Trump weighed in this morning with a verbal jab at Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
The inflation numbers just came out, and we have very low inflation, so that would give Too-Late Powell the chance to give us a nice, beautiful, big rate cut, which would be great.
As the Fed prepares to hold again another policy meeting, Trump's clash with Powell over the central bank's previous resistance to lower interest rates remains at the forefront. This week, former Fed chairs who've served during Republican and Democratic administrations united to defend Powell against threats of a federal criminal investigation. The Trump Organization has launched the development of 2 more real estate projects in Saudi Arabia, adding to its growing list of projects in the Gulf. NPR's Aya Batrawi reports the president's son, Eric Trump, launched the projects.
The Trump Organization this week launched a golf course, hotel, and residential community on the outskirts of the Saudi capital, Riyadh. It will be built within a sprawling new development owned by Saudi Arabia's Sovereign Wealth Fund, which is run by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The company also announced a new Trump Plaza in Jeddah, the second to be built in the Saudi coastal city. The Saudi company developing these projects, Dar Global, says the new projects are worth $10 billion. The Trump organization also has multi-billion-dollar real estate projects under development with Dar Global in Qatar, Oman, and the UAE. The projects reflect a rapid expansion of the family-run business and other financial dealings in the Gulf following President Trump's first term in office. Aya Batrawi, NPR News, Dubai.
Faith leaders in Minnesota have taken a lead in resisting the federal government's massive immigration enforcement operation. NPR's Jason DeRose has more from Minneapolis.
The multi-faith organization ISHIDA has worked for decades in Minnesota to bring together people of faith and help them translate their beliefs into concrete actions. Co-executive director Janae Bates-Imari says ISHIDA once again began mustering the faithful after the killing of Renee Macklin Good last week.
It is a sin for any person, especially a person of faith, to watch what is happening and to stay in silence.
ISHIDA helped lead faith communities' response to the murder of George Floyd and worked with Minnesota politicians to pass progressive legislation, including paid family and medical leave. Jason DeRose, NPR News, Minneapolis.
U.S. stocks are trading lower this hour. The Dow is down 367 points. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. A Texas-based company will soon be assisting the U.S. military develop and improve technology that it uses. News 88.7's Matt Hatta tells us the Pentagon's leader announced the partnership with SpaceX on Monday.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was in Texas yesterday to talk about expanding artificial intelligence in the military. He told a group at the SpaceX facility in Brownsville that the AI platform Grok would be added to the Pentagon network.
I want to thank you, Elon, and your incredible team for leaning forward with us on this as well. Very soon we will have the world's leading AI models on every unclassified and classified network throughout our department.
Hegseth says the military would look to use AI to streamline weapons development. He also said the Pentagon's AI will not be woke. I'm Matt Harrod, News 88.7.
Meanwhile, Texas House Democrats are calling for an investigation into the AI chat box Grok on X, the social media platform owned by Elon Musk. An outside investigative group found that the chat box created 8,000 sexualized images an hour and included one non-consensual image per minute. State leaders accuse Attorney General Ken Paxton of not investigating Musk because he's a mega donor to the Republican Party. 43 Democrats in the Texas House sent a letter to Paxton Monday calling for an investigation into Grok. Malaysia and Indonesia actually banned Grok in their countries. In sports, the Texans advanced to the next round in the playoffs on the weight of a dominant 30-6 win over the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football. They play the New England Patriots Sunday at 2. Checking your weather, 50% chance of showers between now and 3 p.m., otherwise mostly cloudy with a high near 60. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 48. Right now, overcast 56 on the UH campus. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Charles Schwab, offering investors choices like full-service wealth management, advice, investing, and trading on Thinkorswim. Learn more at schwab.com. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back to the second hour of Hello Houston. Whether you're joining us on News 88.7 or watching us live on YouTube, we're glad you're here. Today is January 13th, 2026.
Yeah, I wasn't here for a couple days last week because my mom went to the hospital. Nothing serious, nothing to worry about. But it was so funny because I was asking about a particular medication, and the nurse came back to me and said, well, she hasn't had that medication since January 8th. And I'm like, January 8th? And the one said, today is only the 11th. And I'm like, oh, I thought that was like, I was so confused on time. I cannot believe we're midway through January already. Yeah. Is this going to be a fast year?
I have a feeling it is. It definitely started out, at least with a lot of news.
Yeah.
So,
Tell us what you think over there, you YouTubers. Let us know. You think it's going to be a really fast year or you think it's going to take its time? What has been confusing me too is the weather.
Yes.
Is it hot? Is it cold?
And that's exactly right. Today we can expect partly cloudy skies, which means it's going to be neither, with a high of 59 and tonight an overcast with lows of 48. So it's just kind of staying in that mid-range where you need a sweater and the sun's not really coming out. And we are expected to get some rain. So if you're going to be out on the streets, be careful.
Yeah. And me, I'm all confused about sleeping etiquette here. Do I have the comforter? Do I have two? Do I have a blanket? Do I turn on the heat? Don't I? Do I let the blankets do the work? It's been fine. Like I mentioned, mom's in the hospital. So I don't have to worry about the rest of my house. I just have to worry about my bedroom. When she comes home, then it's like, do I turn on the heat? Does she have the right blanket? It's too confusing. Just pick a temperature and stay there for me, okay?
But what we don't have to worry about anymore?
Sports.
The Texans beat the Pittsburgh Steelers last night 30-6 in the AFC wild card. The Texans now advance to the division round and will face the New England Patriots this Sunday, January 18th at 2 p.m. So let's get our tailgate food out and have a good time and watch the Texans.
And I know everyone's talking about the Texans win. But for me, the really fascinating part of last night was that the Steelers lost Monday Night Football the first time, if I'm doing my math right, in 35 years. There's a sad record came to an end. But first of all, I'm amazed they could have held that record for so long. Any Monday Night Football game they've played since 1991, they've won.
Yeah, and there's a clip of C.J. Stroud, our quarterback, saying, he's pointing at somebody, he's like, you sad? You sad? And it was like, yeah, the Steelers are sad. That's right, baby. Go Texans.
Yep.
But coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with newly elected Houston City Council member Alejandra Salinas. But first,
you want to go into the headlines?
We're going to jump into the headlines.
Take it away.
Texas Democrats are calling for an investigation into the artificial intelligence chatbot on X, the social media platform owned by Elon Musk, for allegedly creating sexually explicit depictions of children. Grok, the AI chatbot, is frequently used by X users to create and alter online images using artificial intelligence. An outside investigative group found Grok created 7,750 sexualized images per hour. Wow, and at least one non-consensual image per minute, according to the Wall Street Journal. 43 Democrats in Texas House of Representatives sent a Monday letter to the Texas Office of the Attorney General calling for an investigation into Grok. What do you think? Should Musk be investigated or is he innocent since the material is being created by users of a chatbot? Now is the time to join us at 713-440-8870. And joining us now to discuss is Houston Public Media reporter Michael Adkison. Michael, welcome back to Hello Houston. What can you tell us about this? This is extremely alarming.
Right. So Grok got an update a few weeks ago that essentially enhanced its ability to create artificially intelligence enhanced photos that, we've seen on one end of the spectrum. You've probably seen a lot of memes of Marco Rubio, of, just different things that are going on in popular culture. But on the other end of the spectrum, there has been a trend, and we were talking about it a little bit before we went on the air, that we've seen, people going on X, which was formerly known as Twitter, and people will post a photo of themselves and someone will comment, Grok, remove this person's clothes, things to that nature. I've seen that myself. I've seen other people talking about it. But yeah, essentially that's what's happening. And there's been a lot of attention focused on its ability to create depictions of child pornography or, explicit images of people under the age of consent. And so there have been investigations. It's not just Texas. We've seen international attention focused on this, national and federal attention focused on this. There really is, a spotlight right now on Grok and its ability to create these photos.
I guess the part that two things in this story confuse me. First of all, a state going after this seems like a bigger thing than if Texas passes some regulation law, whatever about it, doesn't it need to have more massive attention? Federal law, it has to be international communities coming together and limiting, because we're in this bizarre world of AI and who regulates what happens in the internets and the intersphere out there in the world. So that first part confuses me. The other part that confuses me, then take it apart and help me understand here, is that I even know on ChatGPT, I was fooling around with a picture of my mom in the hospital. And I said, ChatGPT, make her look like Cher. And it came back and said, we are not allowed to do that. There are restrictions on this. You cannot look like somebody in the professional field. You cannot do this, that, and the other. There are regulations on these artificial intelligent image generators. Why doesn't Grok have that?
Sure. And one of the things that Elon Musk, when he took over X and named it X, so one of the things that he touted is, his ability to flout the rules. That he said, I don't want to do this by the books. And so, whether or not this is falling under that category, that certainly is, another piece of this puzzle here. I do have a statement that X put out earlier. They said that we take action against illegal content on X, including child sexual abuse material, by removing it, permanently suspending accounts, and working with local governments and law enforcement as necessary. So they do say that they are working on this issue. As far as regulation goes, I think it's really important to note that the Texas legislature, not the federal government and not the end-all be-all in artificial intelligence, but they have really taken a crack on regulating artificial intelligence as well as content on the internet writ large. For example, there was a law that was passed just this most recent session in 2025 that created a criminal penalty for creating artificially intelligent depictions of child pornography. In other words, we already have laws on the book about holding and obtaining and keeping child pornography. But now the law also says that even if that depiction is created by artificial intelligence, be it ChatGPT, be it Grok, be it some other, dark web version of AI chatbots, that would be illegal too. One of the laws that these Democrats did cite specifically, which is notable, is the law that famously was passed a couple of sessions ago that required age verification for websites that have adult content. This resulted in that very notable lawsuit that Pornhub and other pornography websites brought against Texas, saying that this is a violation of our right to free speech and free expression. That case went all the way to the Supreme Court. So these Democrats are essentially saying, how the qualification is if a website has more than a third of its content is explicit material, they need to do age verification. So these Texas Democrats are questioning, is a third of the content on X, quote unquote, explicit material, and would it require age verification to use it? A la akin to those pornographic websites.
But it's interesting because at a federal level, President Donald Trump signed the Take It Down Act that went into law in May 2025. That was a bipartisan bill strongly advocated, and it was for First Lady Melania Trump to criminalize sharing non-consensual and intimate images. Now, we're now in this new territory with AI, and we're looking at it at a state level, but is there any kind of broader umbrella there that could help support these Texas Democrats?
It definitely is something that, everyone is invested in. AI is so new, and we always hear it compared to the Wild West when it comes to regulation, that because it's so new and it's so fresh that, actually putting those regulations into practice, can be a little bit spotty. And, what's illegal somewhere may not be illegal somewhere else. And state level policies like we've been talking about may make it different for Texas than it is for other states. But generally, that is the direction that people are going in, is, regulating this content. I think the question before X at the moment that these Texas Democrats and others are highlighting is whether or not Grok should have that ability, kind of, Ernie, what you were talking about of ChatGPT saying, hey, we can't do this. We're not even going to attempt to. The question is, should Grok have the ability to do that? Because, as X says that they're taking it down, but the question is, should it ever have been able to be posted in the first place? And if so, how do you regulate that? How do you ensure, that this was done? Grok, and I'll take a step back and say that Elon Musk has said that he allows sexual explicit images on X. Obviously, it should be consensual and it should be, within the law. But he has said that that is now allowed on X. And so the question is, how do you determine with artificial intelligence that this was done with the consent, this was done within the law? Those sorts of gray area parameters are kind of what a lot of people want to see come out of Grok and Twitter writ large, or X writ large.
I'm also surprised because, like you mentioned earlier, there are websites that have been blocked without age verification in this state. But on X, you can search for anything and it comes up, and it is not age blocked in this state, which seems, and I guess you said if it's a third or more of their content, it's got to be pretty close at this point because anybody can go on and post anything on X, and it seems very disturbing.
And that's what these Texas Democrats want. They aren't making a definitive statement saying, X is not in compliance with the law, but they want the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, to verify that X is in compliance with the law. X is obviously headquartered now in Texas, and so, the Attorney General does have a significant level of oversight over exactly what's going on with this social media platform. And it is also notable that this bill that we've been talking about age verification, that went all the way to the Supreme Court, this was a law that Attorney General Ken Paxton himself really touted and said that this is a law that Texas has passed and Texas needs. And he really staked a lot of his not reputation per se, but a lot of his role as an office holder by taking this all the way to the Supreme Court and defending this law, even when it didn't have as much support from people who would use these pornographic websites. But he really staked a lot of his time on this law, and so now for Democrats to say, "Hey, let's apply that same law to X," kind of puts the Attorney General Paxton in a little bit of an awkward position. Of Elon Musk is someone who has been supported by Trump Republicans as well as Paxton himself, and so kind of an awkward position for the Attorney General to be in.
You're listening to Hello Houston. You can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. Let's go to the phone lines. Colby from Katy is on the line. Colby, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Hi. Yes. You said that this is proposed by House Democrats in Texas. Has this been run by any House Republicans? Have any signed on, or are they kind of digging their heels in on this?
That's a good question. As of right now, the letter that was sent requesting an investigation was only signed by Democrats. And even at that, it was not signed by all House Democrats. It was just a coalition of them. Some notable Houston names were on there, namely Representative Gene Wu, who is the chair of the House Democratic Caucus here in the Texas legislature. He was the first name that was on there. It was led, though, by the vice chair, who is Mahala Plesa of Dallas. So no, Republicans have not signed on to this at this given moment. Again, kind of similar with Attorney General Paxton. It's a little bit of an awkward position for them to be in of going against the grain and saying that Elon Musk and X need to be investigated, even though he is someone who has openly supported Republican policies and Republican leaders in Texas as well.
Don't we already have, and I'm sure we do, we have child pornography laws in the state and on the federal level. So what makes this more complicated to address then? Is it the idea that these are computer-generated images so that they aren't they're based in reality, but they aren't representations of reality? Is that where the problem comes in enforcing the laws we already have?
Right. And, this law that was just passed, Senate Bill 20, passed in the 2025 legislative session, does create a felony for, artificially intelligent depictions of child pornography, is what you were alluding to. The law on the books that was beforehand says something to the effect of, even if there's not an actual child, it could be a depiction of a child, it could be a cartoon of a child. Okay. So Texas is not new to this idea of a depiction of child pornography rather than, an actual exploitation of a child themselves. But it does open this interesting question of what qualifies as the crime here. There was actually the first arrest under that law was in the Houston area. I don't have it exactly in front of me, but I want to say it was in Montgomery County that an individual was arrested because they had taken a photo of a child and allegedly manipulated it with artificial intelligence to become, an explicit photo. So this is it's sort of crimes of the future here. It is, what does applying a law when it comes to artificial intelligence and this sort of ether law, where does that apply and where does it begin and end is an interesting question that Texas is now facing in real time here in the present.
And what do you think is going to happen next with these? Do you think that more people are going to get behind it? Do you think this is going to get a lot of traction?
That's a good question. I think in Texas, it would certainly be an uphill battle for Texas to actually investigate X, again, because of that position that they're in where Elon Musk is, an open supporter of Republican policies in Texas. He has very openly talked about problems in urban cities in Texas that are led by Democrats. He has openly said that, some of the Republican bills that are passed by the legislature he is in favor of. So, it's a tough position for Texas lawmakers to be into. I have a hard time seeing them actually investigating at the state level. But that being said, this is an issue that is going beyond the Texas and even the United States. That earlier this week, Malaysia and Indonesia became the first countries to completely block Grok. That Grok is no longer used in those countries. In the United Kingdom, Ofcom, I'm not entirely sure on the pronunciation. They're an internet watchdog that's sort of akin to the FCC here in the United States. They're backed by the government. They are investigating Grok for this very reason of the ability to create child pornography using artificial intelligence. So, while Texas Democrats are certainly putting a spotlight on this issue does go well beyond the boundaries of the Lone Star State.
Thank you for covering this.
Yes, Michael Adkison is a Houston Public Media reporter. You can go to houstonpublicmedia.org to find more news and coverage. Michael, again, thanks for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank y'all.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with newly elected Houston City Council member Alejandra Salinas. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Michael Schaefer. My partner Ellen and I have been proud supporters of public radio and TV for decades.
We really would be lost without our daily fix of unbiased national and local news, cultural programming, and great entertainment.
But with recent federal defunding, stations like Houston Public Media face real challenges.
Now's the time to step up.
Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Thank you.
Thursday at 8 p.m. Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Holocaust Museum Houston, featuring 6 interactive exhibitions in both English and Spanish. Details at hmh.org.
Support comes from Alley Theater, presenting Real Women Have Curves, the play that inspired the film, following 5 women balancing family, work, and cultural expectations with humor and heart. Opens January 23rd. alleytheater.org.
Support comes from the Houston Automotive Show at NRG Center, highlighting the latest vehicles, off-roading adventures, and automotive technology displays within the combined auto and boat event. More information on schedules, exhibitors, and venue details at automotiveshow.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from DeCamera, presenting Destin Musique, with cellist Sonia Veter-Atherton, pianist Sarah Rothenberg, and video by Chantal Ackerman. January 16th and 17th at Hobby Center. Tickets at decamera.com.
Support comes from the law firm McFarland PLLC, eminent domain attorneys focused exclusively on representing landowners against the government's taking of private property for public use across the state of Texas. More at McFarlandPLLC.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Good Reason Houston, with the 2025 Houston Public Education Snapshot, tracking how Houston's schools are preparing students today for a living wage tomorrow. Learn more at goodreasonhouston.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous and Celestia Sherman.
And joining us now is Houston's newest city council member. Alejandra Salinas was sworn in last week after winning a citywide runoff election for an at-large seat. Today, she's going to share with us her plans for the city in her new role. Welcome, council member.
Thank you.
And if you would like to join the conversation, give us a call, 713-440-8870. As we said, you are the newest member, just got in. Already, are you finding a difference in what you expected to what you're finding?
No, I mean, there's a lot of important work to be done. There's a lot of good folks at City Hall that care deeply about this city, and I feel so lucky to partner with them. I'm just really excited to roll up my sleeves and get to work. I think the mayor said it best when he introduced me at council last week. He said, let's get to work, and I finished my remarks to council by echoing that sentiment. So my office is open for business. We welcome constituency calls, and we're just excited to do the work.
One of the big points in your whole campaign was community engagement, and also being an at-large. It's not just a precinct, a district. It is the whole city that you get to represent. How are you going to realize that promise of keeping the community engaged and also hearing from them and making sure you're accessible?
Absolutely. There are a lot of conversations happening in my office about just this issue, but I want to be very methodical about making sure that we're not just talking to folks that we talk to on the campaign, but we're going to map out the city. We're going to look at where organizations are, where super neighborhoods are, where community leaders are, and make sure that we're touching all of the city and having internal metrics that hold us to account, that we're talking to various communities, and no one is being left untouched, but being very systematic and having metrics underlie that kind of outreach. And in terms of how we're going to make ourselves accessible, we hope in the coming weeks to lay out, I think, some pretty exciting ways. And I don't know how many people are going to want to sit down and have a coffee or office hours with a council member, but we want to try to create as many of those opportunities as possible. And like I said on the campaign, really meet people where they are. I don't want to just be available where you have to come down to City Hall if that's not what's most convenient for you. Really trying to be thoughtful about going out to all the wonderful parts of the city and making myself and my team available to help.
You're listening to Hello Houston. We are speaking with Alejandra Salinas, Houston City at-Large 4 Council member. We do have a call, Jacob from Montrose. Jacob, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question for Council member Salinas?
My comment is, welcome aboard, Alejandra Salinas. And my question is this: how does it feel to be one of the most powerful politicians in the city of Houston?
Well, I don't know that I'm all that powerful, but I feel incredibly honored to be in a position to do the people's work. Every day that I walk into this office, I feel just so incredibly privileged that the people of Houston have trusted me, and I take that privilege and responsibility every single day. But I just feel grateful to the city for giving me an opportunity to serve.
You know, Alejandra, one of the things that you campaigned on was safer neighborhoods. Now you are, a council member. You've been elected. We saw what happened in Minnesota. We are, at one of the most diverse cities. What type of conversations were you having looking at the situation in Minnesota, and how are y'all not going to make sure that happens here in Houston?
Yeah, so I put out a statement last week, and when Representative Cristina Morales called on elected officials to join her at her vigil, I was proud to do so. And what is happening is it was tragic, and I think it speaks to what this administration is doing of sort of imposing this culture of violence and fear, and creating conflict between ourselves and the people that are meant to protect us. And I think we all just need to be thoughtful in our language. We need to call for transparency and thoroughness in the investigation. And as I said in my statement, I look forward to working with the mayor and the local law enforcement officials to ensuring that we are being as thoughtful and as thorough as possible, and ensuring that the community always feels protected and knows that our local law enforcement, first and foremost, regardless of sort of the demands we may get from federal officials, are making sure that keeping Houstonians safe is always our number one priority.
Houston Councilmember Edward Pollard asked local ICE agents to remove their face masks. What are your thoughts on that?
I certainly wish that they would. I think it is not what this country is about to have law enforcement who are afraid to show who they are, because they should be proud to do the work of defending American citizens. I would want to explore the legality of it. I know that a similar California law is currently being challenged by the federal government. And so taking a look at whether we could be in a position to mandate it, but I certainly echo the council members' calls for action in the hopes that ICE will listen. I'm just not sure how much they will listen without us taking some action to try to preclude them. But it's all about, if we are going to take action, do it in a way that we feel can survive legal scrutiny, because anything we do will face challenge by the state government.
So help me understand then where we should be from your point of view as a city when it comes to these immigration issues that our nation is facing, with ICE coming into communities and doing the work that ICE is here to do. How do we fit into this puzzle? Where is the balance? What should we as a city be doing? How should we be cooperating? What should citizens be doing in reaction to what's going on? Your advice across all of that.
So that's a big question. I will do my best to answer it. So first and foremost, we as a city are limited on what we can and should do when it comes to cooperation because of the laws that these Republican leaders in Austin have passed. And so there are a lot of restrictions that I don't necessarily agree with, but unfortunately we have to comply with to some degree. So taking those restrictions in mind, I think first and foremost, we have to be very transparent with the public about what exactly HPD is and is not doing. And I commend the mayor and others who are starting that conversation in community, but we certainly need to continue to have that conversation very publicly so we can have all those difficult questions answered. What exactly happens when someone gets pulled over? What call is or is not made? So everyone in the community knows, and we can sort of stop the questioning or rumors and all that and just put the facts out there so people can make decisions about how to keep themselves and their family safe, regardless of what their status may be. I think the second step, after we have that sort of full transparency conversation, is evaluating with the legal counsel from the city and with advocacy groups, what exactly can the city do and survive legal scrutiny that we will face from Washington and Austin to protect those communities and allow our local law enforcement to focus on keeping us safe. Mm-hmm. Is it, again, taking the lead of other cities and states that have explored options to protect certain spaces? There's possibilities of trying to restrict what ICE agents can and cannot do or spaces they can and cannot go into. But all of those decisions have to be made with all the stakeholders at the table and really being thoughtful about what can survive legal scrutiny, because I don't want to pass an ordinance that we're then going to have to spend all of this money defending if we don't think there's a realistic chance that it's going to get upheld. Mm-hmm. So those would be my priorities.
Another issue that we're looking at, we have a divided city council which approved a proposal to use $30 million in stormwater mitigation funds to demolish blighted buildings on Wednesday after Houston Mayor John Whitmire and City Controller Chris Hollins, they've clashed over the measure. You voted against this. Why?
I echoed, obviously I came into this vote sort of preset. It had been decided and discussed by council. But I echoed the sentiments that Councilmember Alcorn expressed about, the purpose of the fund, the dollars going to that ultimate purpose. Obviously, the vote's passed, and now I think we need to focus on, okay, this is going to be done. We're going to demolish buildings. How can we ensure that we're selecting buildings that most closely align with the original intent of this fund, which is protecting our stormwater maintenance system.
Right, and that's something that you also ran on, was the resilience and infrastructure of our city. And do you think that this was the right move? I mean, obviously you voted against it, but my question is, what could have been done instead?
Well, the city is obviously facing a budget crisis, and I certainly understand the dilemma that this city faces and the mayor faces about there's so many needs. And we're trying to address all those needs with the limited funds. And this was a creative attempt to address the concern of blight properties with stormwater funds. Obviously, my vote is what it is. But I think moving forward, we just have to figure out how we ensure that we're going to find $30 million elsewhere to focus specifically on stormwater drainage.
We are speaking with newly elected Houston City Council member Alejandra Salinas. If you'd like to join the conversation, 713-440-8870. Davis from West Houston is on the line. Davis, what's on your mind today?
Hello, Houston, and congratulations to Councilmember Salinas. Big fan and supporter of your work, and everything that you've campaigned on, you've stayed true to. And your supporters and Houstonians love you and your work, and just want to say congratulations. And I also wanted to share a question, because Harris County, I know we've changed kind of topics a bit, but Harris County has the second largest immigrant population in America. And my question is what your message is to our immigrant communities here in Houston, but also to community members who wish to see our immigrants or undocumented neighbors out of our city.
My message to them is in fact part of what I said in my remarks as soon as I was sworn into council, which is you are part of what makes this city exceptional and special. Right now, many major cities in this country are shrinking and Houston is growing, and that is in very large part due to the immigrant population. And as the Kinder Institute wrote, we are at a moment in time where we have a decision to make as a city. Do we lean in to what makes this city so special? And that is our diverse population and our focus on inclusivity and our focus on economic opportunity for all. and trying to combat the growing inequality we see? Or do we go in another direction, which has not historically been what makes the city so wonderful? I hope we're going to pick the first option, and I'm going to spend every day at City Council fighting for just that. But my message to them is, this is your city just as much as it is ours. We love you, we respect you, and we want to do everything in our power to let you know, although there's some people in this country that think you are less than, that want to make you be afraid of who you are, know that there's a lot of us that are working tirelessly to change that, to fight against that, and that we will get past this. There have been moments in time when immigrants have been denigrated and the country moved past it, and I am confident that the better angels will win at the end of the day, and we will embrace our immigrant population just like they deserve to be embraced.
Thank you very much, Davis, for calling in with that question. Just shifting a little bit, another issue that faces us is affordable housing. And I'm curious what you're thinking now that you're in office. Where do we start? How do we really attack this and make this a more affordable? I mean, granted, a lot of people say we're already very fortunate. We have a very affordable city, but there is concern here.
Well, I've been in all of a week, so I can't launch my full 10-point plan on affordable housing, but it will be coming soon. But what I would say is that, look, ultimately, it's an issue of supply and demand. It's an issue of figuring out how do we make the inputs of housing as affordable as possible, and from a city perspective, what are the levers that we have control and influence on? So some things we can do, we can make permitting more effective. So they're spending less dollars on that, and that allows the property to be more available, to be at a lower price. We can be creative about how we're using land, allowing people to use properties in ways that creates sort of more affordable properties rather than just a typical townhome. Being creative about the solutions, partnering with the state and federal government to figure out what resources we can bring. And when we provide tax incentives, the Chronicle, of course, ran a story about this, making sure that we're holding our developers to account. If we're going to give you an incentive, you got to follow through. And if you don't, there will be consequences. And I think holding developers to account, being creative and thoughtful about how the city engages and pursue and encourages development are all things that we can be doing. I know there's folks that are hard at work on this, and I do plan for this to be an important part of what we focus on in my office.
Do you feel we have, in a broader picture, the resources to pay for the things we need to pay for as a city, and they're just being misaligned or misused? Or are we in a situation where we just don't have the monies to do what we need to do, and we have to find new revenue sources?
Well, again, about a week and a half in, I don't have a definitive answer to that question. But what I can tell you is what I knew from campaigning, which is we take in far less tax revenue than all of our peers in Texas and our peers of major cities across this country. It is a testament to our city that we've been able to do so much with so little. But we have to explore and learn from what other cities are doing and explore what we're doing internally to answer that question. But ultimately, we have to meet the city's needs and work creatively, like the grant programs that I talked a lot about on the campaign, about how to bring in additional dollars. It doesn't only have to come from the taxpayers. It can come from other sources, and being deliberative and creative in that process to ensure that we're bringing in the resources they need to meet those everyday Houston needs.
You're listening to Hello Houston. We are speaking with Alejandra Salinas, Houston City at-large for council member. If you would like to join the conversation, you can call or text 713-440-8870.
Let me just, a more philosophical question for you then. New into office, a lot of promises along the campaign trail, a lot of things you'd like to see done. How are you prioritizing?
So that is a conversation I'm actively having with my chief of staff. We brought on, his name is Christopher Chu de Leon. He worked with the county for many years. And I think it's about, taking in all the information, meeting with all the department heads, but always we are preparing sort of an internal policy document where we're laying out what those principles are going to be. And we're laying out a framework by which we're going to have internal checks to see what kind of progress are we making on each of those issues. I think it's all about being systematic and having checks on those metrics to ensure that we're meeting our goals. Obviously, things will adapt and adjust as we work through, the city and as we work through with individuals. But I think constantly having check-ins and being actively engaged with community, because I know I'm going to hold myself to account, but I know my brothers and sisters in this community will do the same. And so it's just maintaining those open channels of communication, being thoughtful, but always reflecting and self-examining to ensure that we're doing the work.
It's interesting because Ernie did mention, he talked about affordable housing and how you would plan to tackle that. Houston anticipates opening a shelter and resource center for the areas unhoused in the East End on Emancipation Avenue this year, 2026. There's been a lot of backlash from residents nearby. What are your thoughts on this? And again, the unhoused issue in Houston.
Well, the unhoused issue is, I think, one of the most important issues facing the city. And, as I said on the campaign, I think, there was opportunities to more effectively communicate with community about the fact that housing facility was going to be placed there. And I think if we build additional facilities, we need to have conversations with community so everyone knows and no one feels surprised by that decision. So I think that's first and foremost with regard to any type of centers that are built. The question of whether we should be having centers or putting money on things like housing first, it is a tough policy decision that I think we need to make with the support of our experts. And I think we also need to understand, as so many people know, housing is not a one-stop solution. Mm-hmm. I talked about this on the campaign. I grew up with a mom who had pretty serious mental health and substance abuse issues. And I can't imagine having to deal with those issues and being unhoused. Mm-hmm. And being compassionate and thoughtful about that, recognizing, meeting people where they are and giving them the resources they need to succeed. That's going to be my driving belief in this issue. And seeing our success is not how many people are off the streets today, but how many people ended up with secure housing a year from now. And I come from this also from a position of faith. I often think about what we are taught, the values that matter, taking care of those that are least among us. And I hope all of those principles, I know they guide many of my fellow council members. I was having a conversation with one of them this morning about just how important this issue is. But those are the values that are going to drive me on this. And I think just making sure that we're always treating people with dignity and respect. And if there will be an enforcement component, doing so thoughtfully and in a way that's actually cost effective.
713-440-8870. If you want to talk to the council member on the line right now, Bob from Atascocita is there. Bob, what's on your mind?
I've been listening and I've been debating on calling in. She made a comment about the affordable housing being, the supply and demand is what's going to raise the prices. But she also made a comment about this being a diverse city and wanting to keep the illegal immigrants here or undocumented. So my question is, you can't really have both. If you want to lower the supply or the demand, you get rid of the undocumented immigrants. That's going to free up housing for the low-income housing or the low-income people to get more affordable housing. But if you keep both, housing prices are just going to continue to go up.
Bob, thank you for your call, Council.
So I would respectfully disagree. And I think there's a lot of efforts to pit these communities against each other. And it's often done by the wealthiest among us to tell us that there's a very limited amount of supply for those that are vulnerable or have lesser means. And we all have to fight over that little slice of the pie, rather than having the conversation about how do we make that slice bigger for these communities. Undocumented people, again, you don't have to take my word for it. Look at the Kinder Institute and what they say. The amount of economic development there's immense benefits that undocumented immigrants bring to the city. Economic development that results in additional tax revenues that help us pay for many of the programs that people complain about them draining. It is proven again and again and again that overall undocumented immigrants have a huge surplus benefit to our country, and so oftentimes are doing the jobs that Americans just don't want to do for whatever reason. I mean, we have said again, like, if we were to kick out all these people, who is going to pick the fruit? Who is going to do those housekeeping jobs that other Americans don't just want to do? And so I think we should push back on the notion that we have to fight over the limited slice of pie, but say these people are making meaningful contributions to our country. We cannot run this country without them. Let's treat them with the dignity and respect that all people deserve and figure out how to build additional housing to ensure that all of us have our basic needs met.
Houston City Council member Alejandra Salinas, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, we preview performances by the ISHIDA Dance Company. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Brings you film.
The themes in it are so far ahead of their time.
Books.
The detail is amazing.
Art.
There's all the personal stuff.
Theatre.
Lots of singing and dancing and colours.
Music.
The dance floor is made for dancing.
And everything in between.
I want it to be exciting.
That's the Arts Hour with me, Nikki Beatty.
I really identified with it.
From the BBC.
The Arts Hour, Friday nights at 9 on News 88.7.
On Fresh Air, you'll hear revelations from well-known actors, like Zach Galifianakis on the story behind his last name.
It's actually shortened, Terry. My real last name is Galifianakisberg. That's an exclusive for your show.
Fresh Air, bringing you some of the biggest names in American culture and some of the most difficult to pronounce. Join us.
Fresh Air, weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support comes from Rothko Chapel, presenting the 31st MLK birthday observance. We Got Us, Health and Care Beyond Capitalism, on January 15th at 6:30 p.m. More information at rothkochapel.org.
Support comes from Discovery Green Conservancy, presenting Houston's outdoor ice skating rink, offering a wintertime experience for all, surrounded by public art and downtown views. Open through February 16th. More at discoverygreen.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Good Reason Houston, with the 2025 Houston Public Education Snapshot, tracking how Houston's schools are preparing students today for a living wage tomorrow. Learn more at goodreasonhouston.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous and Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
Oh, there they are.
ISHIDA is a nationally recognized contemporary dance company based in both Houston and Austin that's known for presenting original poetic narratives told through the works of established and up-and-coming choreographers. Starting on Thursday, Asia Society Texas will present ISHIDA's latest program, which follows a singer who struggles with imposter syndrome as she returns to the stage after going on a hiatus. To tell us more about ISHIDA Dance Company and this up-and-coming program, please welcome ISHIDA's artistic director, Brett Ishida, and award-winning choreographer, Kristian Lever, who's making his world premiere in Rara, Avis. Brett, Kristian, and welcome to Hello Houston. If you would like to join the conversation, you can call or text 713-440-8870.
And also, Maddie, you're with us too. Yes, we have dancer Maddie.
We've got Maddie also.
Yes.
Thank you all for joining us. And I guess the place to start, and I'll start with you, Brett. Tell us a little bit about the idea, the philosophy behind ISHIDA Dance.
Well, we are creating a company that's presenting 21st century dance that's emotionally driven with a narrative that is accessible and relatable, I think, to modern audiences. And I think the works also connect to the dancers and their perspectives as well. And we also invite guest choreographers that are internationally regarded, such as Kristian, and so it's a wonderful opportunity for Houstonians to see these really wonderful dancers and choreographers and very unique works.
Kristian, tell me a little bit about the program.
Right. Well, I would like to also echo what Brett was saying, that, I think it's I'm very European. I'm sadly not from the States. So for me, in Europe, we take pride of having very innovative dance and very sort of accessible dance and so forth, contemporary dance. But what Brett here has built is incredible, really. It's such a diverse program. And I think it's something very unique, not only for the United States, but also across the world, let's say the Western world, with the dance program she brings. So that's and this unique program is basically, it's 4 different works from 3 different choreographers. Yeah, there's two works from Brett, and then there's a work from myself and from a Slovenian choreographer, Edward Klug. So it's a very cool program. I think we've got a lot of different flavors, some very, very physical work, a bit more abstract. Some works are a bit more sort of narrative driven. And so I think there's a mixture of, there's a little bit of everything. I always say that, my dad's from Liverpool, very working class, never was exposed to dance or so. So I always enjoy when dance programs can be as sort of accessible to the vast majority. It's not just an elite thing. And I think Brett has brilliantly be able to curate a program that makes it, you find it's intellectually stimulating, emotionally stimulating, but it still feels accessible. I think that's a key thing, because sometimes dance, especially within contemporary dance, I think people sort of feel a little bit left out when they leave the show. They don't really quite understand. Yeah. And I think it's really been an honor for me to be here in Houston, and yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah. And Maddie, what does it mean to you to be a part of this production? And what do you find most inspiring about it?
I am inspired by the people around me, who I'm working with, choreographers and dancers. This is very important to me. This is my 6th project, I believe, with ISHIDA, so been a while. But something that I cherish a lot. So
let me throw out a question to pretty much any of you can answer it. And I'm just curious, because when Kristian was talking about where the choreographers are from, Kristian and the other are both from out of this country, Brett, of course, here. Do you notice a difference in what they put on stage because of where they come from? Or has the language of dance kind of taken on universal reactions to themes and shifts as the art form changes? Is there still geo differences?
I'm happy to jump on that question. Yeah, I'm really, that's a really good question, but I've never heard that question before. That's a really good question. I definitely think there is a little bit. Of course, nowadays things do get a little bit, there's a bit more globalization. So we do get, share works from different choreographers, different, across the globe, I guess. But I do think there is still quite a sort of a in Germany, they tend to do this sort of work. In the UK, they do more like that sort of work. In the States, and again, of course, the States is a huge country. So maybe even I don't know too well here, but maybe it's even depending on where, in New York, Houston, etc. So I do think there is a bit of that. And I think that's why it also makes it so cool. Brett's, ISHIDA Dance in general, why it's so cool, because Brett is really doing a great job of curating from different choreographers, from different also generations and different places of the world. So I do think it is quite unique. I believe here at least it is quite unique, and because I do think we can see sort of different geographical sort of choreographic languages somehow even. In the Netherlands, they're very notorious for having very strong contemporary dance also. Sorry, I'm speaking about Europe constantly just because that's where I'm from, so I know more about that.
That's your region. You're allowed. Brett, your thoughts on the same topic?
No, and each of these, whenever I curate a program, I'm intentionally bringing the diversity and the distinct voices of the choreographers. Right. So I think you will see, and even speaking for the dancers, there is a different, movement, language, and creative process to each of the 3 different choreographers. And I think you can speak to that, because Maddie's she's dancing in both Kristian's work and in one of my works as well.
Right. Yeah. So, tell us about that.
What do you think, Maddie?
Come on, Maddie, talk to us.
Well,
No pressure.
I know, right on the spot.
Put it on the spot, right?
Well, I guess
All right,
let me help you refine it a little bit too, is that the physical language of dance, do you notice the difference between the different choreographers based on particular things, or is it each piece just evolves into its own language?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think, you gather information and thoughts like from where you come from when you're creating something. So with Kristian, I felt like it was a bit more straightforward, even though there was like a lot of like freedom within it. There was an idea and very straightforward. Same with Brett, but just two different things. I feel like with Brett, I feel it's more like improv based, and we start that way,
task,
and
yeah.
then there's a lot of tasks that happen before we come up with a product, basically.
And I mean, Kristian's work also has text. There's a whole narrative where the dancers are using lip sync that's incorporated.
Right.
So it's very dance theater.
Yes.
As well, and this work that Maddie's in, there are also some other theatrical components, not in terms of speaking, but I don't want to tell you. You have to come see it.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you've definitely whet our appetites for this program and for all that ISHIDA is doing. Thank you all for coming in today.
Yes, Brett Ishida is the artistic director of ISHIDA Dance Company. Kristian Lever is a choreographer, and Maddie Medina is a dancer. Thank you all for joining us today on Hello Houston. Rara Avis will run from Thursday, January 15th to Sunday, January 18th at the Asia Society, Texas. For more information, visit asiasociety.org. And we have unfortunately run out of time.
So quickly.
Let's
do it again tomorrow.
And that brings us to the end of our show. We, as Ernie said, we'll be back tomorrow with more conversation. We are going to be joined by Houston Storm Chaser. So that's going to be exciting.
It's going to be cool.
It's going to be fun.
See you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Baylor College of Medicine. With 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care that push the frontier